Coming up next on Tech News Today, Apple gets serious about its classroom ambitions. The difference between autonomous Teslas and autopilot features. Twitter had the millennials with Vine, but they're losing them rapidly. We'll talk a little bit about that. Also, why Apple invested $1 billion in China's largest ride-hailing service. And origami robots encased in bacon. Not really, kind of. All that coming up next on Tech News Today.
This is Twit. Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today, episode 1513, recorded on Friday the 13th of May, 2016.
This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by Wealthfront. Wealthfront is a low-cost automated investment service and the most sophisticated way to invest your money. So whether you've got millions or you're just starting out, visit wealthfront.com/TNT and sign up to get your free personalized investment portfolio. That's wealthfront.com/TNT.
And by PillPack, a full-service online pharmacy that combines modern technology, convenient packaging, and personalized service to make your life easier. Visit pillpack.com/twit to save $20 on vitamins and OTCs when you transfer your prescriptions.
Welcome to Tech News Today, the show where we talk about all the technology news, or some of the technology news, the most important technology news.
The cream of the crop. It's risen to the top.
Yes. I am Megan Morrone.
I'm Jason Howell. I was trying to find one more thing that rhymes with top and crop.
Stop. Pop.
And us, you won't stop.
No, you'll
that
never
doesn't work.
stop us.
All right.
You can't stop us.
In fact, instead of stopping, let's go into the first story. When it comes to technology in the classroom, many people have high hopes for the learning potential, but that flies in the face of some studies that show that student performance in classrooms that rely on technology for learning isn't improved, and sometimes those students perform worse when compared to those who use technology minimally in that setting. Apple is looking to change that by supporting educators at 114 schools across the U.S., providing them with iPads for all students and teachers, MacBooks, and Apple TVs. Beyond simply just kind of providing access to this technology, Apple is also helping build better Wi-Fi networks in those schools and also sending someone to work with the faculty for a few weeks with each instance to teach them how best to use that technology. So they've committed, I guess, $100 million to the effort. And the grant expires in 3 years. So who knows what the schools are going to do at the end of 3 years. But it'll be a great 3 years until then.
Or maybe it will be a horrible 3 years.
Or maybe it won't be. Yeah, I guess.
I mean, this is such a can of worms, technology in the classroom. In Petaluma, Petaluma City Schools, they've had iPads since the beginning of the year. Your kids are too young, I guess, to have them.
Yeah, we don't have the iPad thing going on yet. And I mean, so speaking like as part of it, but not quite affected by it yet, my thought going into it is, wow, that seems like there would be a lot of potential for, okay, you get an iPad and yes, you do school work on it. But I mean, I know a lot of teachers complain about the iPads being used for other things. So is it more distracting in the long run? I don't know.
I think it is distracting, but it is the long run is that this is the technology in all of our lives. And,
right.
And it's, and whereas maybe when we were in school or, teachers did not grow up with this technology. I mean, many teachers did grow up with this technology. And you're not finding the big gap. I mean, it's great that they're sending someone to help with this program.
I think that's a big part of it, actually, because a lot of times, I think the thought was, well, we just put technology in schools and then they've got technology. But I mean, half the time, like what you're talking about, a lot of teachers, a lot of faculty maybe don't necessarily have the training to really understand what they can do with that technology. They can maybe hopefully they can figure out how to power it on and get it used in some sort of capacity in the school. But is it used effectively? Do they know how to provide support when it's needed?
I guess I was actually saying the opposite. That I think I haven't had that experience at all.
No?
And maybe it's because we live in Northern California. I don't know. But I do think that many people have grown up with this technology. I mean, not iPads. You're not old enough to be a teacher if you grew up with an iPad. But I mean, with computers, teachers, many of them are our age. We grew up with computers. We're not, we're that generation that feels comfortable with computers. And I think that I've noticed that hasn't been a problem with the teachers that my kids have. That they're not like, what is this iPad?
Right.
Like they all have iPhones. They know how it works. It's actually a technology they're more comfortable with than what was in schools before. I think.
Okay,
but
it might be a little bit different in this case because a lot of what Apple is doing here is they're not targeting just like any schools. The 114 schools that they picked have light technology resources just in general. They're in places like farming communities, places rural areas or areas that lower income areas that don't necessarily have direct access to this this kind of technology, and that's a big part of what it is trying to kind of close that digital divide as a result. So maybe the experience is a little bit different there, but
yeah, I mean, as far as closing the digital divide goes, like I am in complete support of that. That's why widespread programs like this are great because, a lot of parents have iPads at home, but some don't. So then when every kid has one, that's nice. And that is good and goes a long way towards closing the digital divide, one hopes.
Now, Chromebooks have actually done really well in the school environment, accounted for 51% of computer and tablet purchases in the U.S. Schools in Q3 of 2015 compared to 24% for Apple. Apple's been trying time and time again in different ways, sometimes a little controversial, because I think there was one where there was there was some sort of it happened in LA.
Yeah, the
exactly.
LA Unified School District. Yeah, it was a disaster.
Yeah, that was a big time disaster. It ended up in a federal investigation and all that kind of stuff as far as like how they're getting the technology and how it's being put to use. But Apple really wants to get a foothold in schools, so we'll see how this turns out.
Yeah, I mean, I think we both agree that Chromebooks are better for schools. Like that's what I would like to see in schools. It has a keyboard. It just is more, I think, in terms of productivity, especially. And I'm talking about maybe like my own personal experience with my kids who are older. It's been very weird to go from Chromebooks to iPads.
Seems like
take away the keyboard. They were learning to type, and then it's like, oh, here's this thing, and the on-screen keyboard's very different. I think they are going to get keyboards in Petaluma City Schools for the older kids, but to attach to their iPads. But yeah, I think I would prefer Chromebooks in this situation.
Has their experience with iPads been a positive kind of addition to kind of the school environment? Or has it
you
been
mean
more
my own?
distracting?
Well, my own children, like we also have, much better iPads at home. Like they're older. They're older. They're older
No, that's
iPads.
true.
So they see them as this kind of thing that has this giant case on it, so that they don't break it. They can't get any app they want. It's pretty locked down. They've obviously figured out how to get around that, but they don't because they're perfect. They don't, as far as I know, get around that. But yeah, they're just slow, and and the Wi-Fi is slow. So that has been my personal experience with technology in our house. I would prefer that they had Chromebooks.
Sure. Cool.
But then there's also the, there's been an issue with people complaining about giving the kids access to things they shouldn't look at, like to, pornography or other things that they can get access to on their iPads, which
With
to
a
that...
simple search engine.
To that I say it's not the iPads, it's the internet access that is the problem. And, but I get it. Amazon's Dash button is their tiny little devices that let you buy diapers or laundry detergent, even Red Bull and Doritos with just a click of the button. Some people have hacked their Dash buttons to start their Teslas or help take care of their baby. But what if Amazon made it easier for us to use the Dash button to do things that don't involve us buying more stuff from Amazon? Today, they announced the Amazon Web Services button for Internet of Things, or AWS for IoT. It's in limited release, and when I tried to pay Amazon $20 for one, I found that they were already no longer available. They're apparently sold out, maybe not for good. I don't know. That's what Amazon does. Like, they just send them out in a limited release. It makes sense. They don't want a bunch of people developing things and overloading the system. There's also another catch. It's for developers already using AWS services that you also pay for.
Well, I hope this isn't just like, oh, well, we put it up and in a half day it's sold out and you're never going to get any more of these. Like, I have to imagine they're going to open it up a little bit more because it is a very requested thing ever since these little buttons have been rolling out. The thing I get concerned about with these, it kind of ties in with what we were talking about yesterday a little bit, right? Like these things, they have an onboard battery. That's how they're able to, be powered and be, completely detached from anything. It's connecting via Wi-Fi. Basically, that battery lasts for about 1,000 presses, and I don't know. Then it's done. Like there's no way to recharge it, so it's just kind of waste and go ahead and buy another one and toss that in the trash. So I don't know. It would be nice to have some sort of reusability out of it. I understand that kind of flies in the face of the super low cost quality of what makes this appealing. But
yeah, the dash buttons themselves are essentially free because you get the discount back. You get the money back. You pay for it, and then you get the money back in a discount of whatever you're ordering over and over again.
Sure.
So yeah, you're supposed to be able to use this as a Netflix remote. You can check in and check out. If you have an Airbnb, you can people can just press the button to check in and check out. It's supposed to integrate with Twitter and Facebook and Slack, but you have to develop for that. It's like anything that can be developed for for the Amazon Echo, you can use this button for.
Okay.
But so it's not like anything you can do. A developer has to develop it. Mm-hmm. So go out and develop.
Or you have to become a developer and then create that thing that you've always wanted. That a button controls.
Do it.
All right.
What have you always wanted?
Oh, I don't know. That's a great question on the spot. I want a button that when I press it, Amazon delivers me a box full of gold.
Okay.
Okay.
Do it. Make it happen for Jason.
Of course, I'd probably have to pay for the gold. Mm-hmm. It's all falling apart. Twitter's Vine is a little more than 3 years old at this point. That's half the number of total seconds a single video on Vine is allowed to be, by the way. I'm good at math. And even with 6-second video limits, the service has created a large number of creators who've become, internet famous. Some of them actually command 6 figures for doing a branded Vine. That's crazy. For 6 seconds. Unbelievable. But the Twitter-owned service is no longer the shiny new toy and is quickly becoming irrelevant as creators shift their video talent over to competing services. Marketers and ad buyers who once flocked to Vine now find their attention is on, the other big ones, Facebook, Snapchat, and Instagram. And as such, so goes the talent. They go where the money is. So I don't know. Twitter has a Vine problem now. Twitter has a lot of problems, and Vine is one. So creators are just saying that Vine doesn't really support their work, doesn't support the monetization side of things nearly as well as services like Facebook. And that, Facebook does a lot of things specifically for creators. For example, providing clear data on the users, on the people that are that are tying into their content, and that's valuable to kind of pass along to marketers who, they're trying to reach through these through the talent. And I guess
they're also paying them. I mean, money.
Mm-hmm.
So it's funny. It's like all the criticism.
Well, yes, Facebook is paying
Facebook
some
is
creators.
Giving them money, paying them. We've criticized Facebook a lot this week, but how novel an idea. Hey, you want to create, we will pay you to create. Mm-hmm. Instead of just yes, use our free platform and then we'll advertise and we'll take some of the money that, really should be yours because you're using our platform. Mm-hmm. And that model worked for YouTube and for Vine for a while, but not anymore. And we've also talked about how YouTube also gives space for creators, lets them create, when we talked to Eileen about YouTube Spaces, that she works there, but, mm-hmm. They're giving things to them too, and it seems that Twitter and Vine are just
we've got the service.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, 3 years ago, Vine was the real deal, right? Yeah. There was a lot of action. There were a lot of people, putting out really unique content that was a lot of fun, very enjoyable to watch. I was amazed that I would get pulled into 6-second video because I thought it was the stupidest thing I'd ever heard of when they first rolled it out. But then, it turns out there's a kind of a new craft created around that tiny little snippet of video, and people got really good with the format. The big challenge has just kind of been that the platform itself has not worked well with creators to provide the things that they want, that they're asking for in order to keep them on. And that really seems like a big drop of the ball on Twitter's part, because they had the creators there.
Yeah.
They kind of to a certain degree started a certain thing, and now that's transferring over to places like Facebook that have just broader audience appeal.
Mm-hmm. And it's so easy now to create a 6-second video and share it in any way yourself. So sorry, Vine. Microsoft will soon let you log into your Windows Phone with a fingerprint. The news comes from slides from this week's WinHeck conference. Those slides ended up on Reddit. Microsoft says native fingerprint sensor software will come with the anniversary update to Windows 10 Mobile this summer. As for the hardware, it will be available in the upcoming HP Elite X3. which includes dual biometrics with iris scanning.
I expect like lasers going across your eyeball.
Exactly. So Windows 10 has Hello. It has the facial recognition already in it. But some people say it's hard to do. Like you have to awkwardly hold your phone.
It's got to be natural for it to be effective.
So yeah, I think fingerprints work.
I love the fingerprint. I mean, it's hard if going on the phone that I'm using on a daily basis, using any phone that doesn't have a fingerprint. Like my wife had the Nexus 5X, and she consequently over time hated it. And so she's now using my Nexus 6 until we get her a new phone, and it does not have a fingerprint reader. And it's just one of those things that once you get access to it, and it does work pretty much flawlessly every single time, it's just really hard to go back.
Yeah, once you go fingerprint, you can't go back.
Yeah, you can't go back.
You
can't go fingerprintless. I will say this isn't HP's first game in this regard. The iPac HX 2750 Pocket PC 2004. There's a link in there for a picture for anyone that wants to explore the gloriousness
of the Pocket
of
PC.
The fingerprint reader on the HP iPac. So it's a thing. It's, they've got history.
The Surface also has a fingerprint.
There it is.
Oh.
There it is. Although it was the slidey kind.
Did you have that?
No, I
Is that
never
yours?
had
Is that your finger?
Is that my perfectly manicured? No, that is not my finger. My finger never looked that shiny. So it's the kind where you slide it over the fingerprint reader.
The Pocket PC. Those were the days.
Yes. That's 12 years ago? That was a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, we aren't going to dwell necessarily on the Facebook trending news topic anymore because it's been discussed to death this week. But it should be noted that CEO Mark Zuckerberg weighed in with a Facebook post on the subject. He reiterated that the company takes the allegations around suppression of topics and viewpoints seriously and will be committed to investigating and addressing any issues if and when they are discovered. He's also inviting people of all political viewpoints to have a direct conversation with him about how, about just basically reassuring them that the platform is operated in an open and unbiased way. So Zuck's on the case. Mm-hmm. Have no fear.
I know. There's something I love a lot about Mark Zuckerberg. Like he has this just idea of what he wants Facebook to be, but it's not necessarily what it is. Like he has such optimism. It's same thing
Always,
about
you read his
Facebook
words.
Basics and it's Facebook Basics, isn't that what it's called?
Free Basics.
Free Basics. But I mean, really, like he has to admit, like I said yesterday, that they're a media company. There's going to be some bias. Accept it. But yeah, I do. To me, that post reading it was like, this is not, you can take off your rose-colored glasses. All right, after the break, we'll talk Apple cars, Google cars, and Teslas. But first, let's take a minute to thank Wealthfront, the sponsor of this episode. You invest for the long term, for you or your family's financial health. But trying to do it all by yourself, especially trying to do it the right way, that's complex and time-consuming. With Wealthfront, you pay 0.25% a year. That's 25 basis points. 0 commissions, and no hidden fees. That's less than $5 a month to invest a $30,000 account. There are no additional charges for any of Wealthfront's services. You can get started investing today with as little as $500. Unlike other financial advisors, Wealthfront won't bog you down with dozens of questions. Oh, the questions. They've simplified their risk identification process, which allows you to begin investing sooner. It only takes a few minutes to sign up at wealthfront.com, and it goes right to work monitoring your portfolios around the clock and taking action as soon as the opportunity arises. Wealthfront portfolios are based on modern portfolio theory. They're designed to adjust according to your personal risk tolerance while staying diversified and tax efficient. Wealthfront is transparent and accessible. You can view or track all your accounts in one place. And now Wealthfront can track both your Wealthfront and your non-Wealthfront bank and brokerage accounts that they will provide in a summary of all your assets. You can see every trade that Wealthfront makes on your behalf in your dashboard, on your desktop, or with their mobile app. Wealthfront manages almost $3 billion in client assets, and it's growing rapidly every day. What are you waiting for? Invest in your future today with Wealthfront. Visit wealthfront.com/TNT to sign up and get your free personalized investment portfolio. You'll see the customized allocation they recommend for your profile. And just for Twit listeners, if you sign up to invest, Wealthfront will manage your first $15,000 entirely free of charge for life. Join the many Twit fans who have seen huge success with Wealthfront and claim your offer today at wealthfront.com/TNT. So Tesla was in the news this week twice when drivers said certain features of their autonomous vehicles didn't work as intended and caused minor collisions. Tesla says the data they recorded from both cars says it was user error. Joining us to talk about his recent experience with a Tesla as well as a few other car stories is Sam Abuelsamid from Navigant Research and a contributor to Forbes. Welcome, Sam.
Hey, Megan. Hey, Jason. How are you doing today?
Whoa, are you in front of a green screen that's been keyed out, or are you actually at sunset?
I'm still tweaking the lighting a little bit. Yeah.
That's awesome. I didn't know if we were doing that or if you were doing that. Nice work.
Yeah, like first you're driving a Tesla, now you're in Hawaii.
Yeah, what's going on?
Actually, it's sunset in Santa Clara that I shot on Monday night when I was there.
Nice.
All right, so you were recently in Silicon Valley for the Connected Cars Conference, the Future Connected Cars Conference, and they let you drive a Tesla. Which one did they give you, and did you give it back?
I did give it back. I asked for an X. Unfortunately, as you may have heard, they're in somewhat short supply right now. Mm-hmm. So they did give me a Model S to drive, a 70D, which is just one step up from the base model. So it's the all-wheel drive version. The important thing I was looking to try out in this one was the autopilot feature. The last time I drove a Model S about a year ago, they hadn't yet released autopilot. And so I wanted to try it out firsthand and see how some of these capabilities worked. And the two stories that you mentioned, one a driver in Utah that used the summon feature to pull her car out of the garage, and then the other driver, I can't remember where she was, but she was driving on the highway and her car rear-ended another vehicle when it didn't stop as she expected it to. Both of those, the system did function as Tesla designed it. The problem is that there's still a bit of a disconnect between what customers expect the vehicles to do and what they're actually capable of doing at this time, because there's been so much discussion of autopilot being this amazing semi-autonomous system, that basically turns the Model S into a self-driving car. It's not quite that. It's not that advanced yet. It's probably one of the most advanced driving assist systems on the road today, but it's not anywhere near a self-driving car at this point.
So you said your experience with the Model S, you said that it needed some work, the lane following logic. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so right now what autopilot does, it does two main things. There's the radar capability that it uses to keep a safe following distance from the vehicle ahead of you. And so if the vehicle you're following slows down, the car will automatically slow down. Otherwise, it'll speed up to whatever maximum set speed you've set. That's fine. That's basically adaptive cruise control. Then the other component is the auto steer that is supposed to track the lane. And for the most part, it works pretty well. Keeps the car when you're going down a straight highway, it works well and keeps the car relatively stable. If there's a little bit of curvature in the road, sometimes it'll oscillate a little bit back and forth. It's nothing objectionable, but it doesn't quite track down the center of the lane like you might expect it to. So that's just a matter of some refinement. And given that Tesla has the ability to do over-the-air software updates and they do them fairly regularly, I'm sure that in an upcoming update that performance will improve. The more fundamental problem is that most of the customers that are buying this capability aren't really paying much heed to the fact that Tesla is still calling this a beta. And so there's been so much discussion of it. Everybody thinks it has the capability to completely drive itself, and the reality it doesn't. It doesn't. For example, it doesn't sense traffic signals or traffic signs, and it won't detect pedestrians or cyclists right now. So if you're using it in the city, driving in the city, and if you're following another car, and that car slows down or stops for a stop sign or a red light, then you will slow down behind that car and stop. But if you turn that system on and there's no car in front of you, and a light turns red, or you come up on a stop sign or some other traffic signal, the car will just keep right on going. It won't even notice those signals there. So that's a problem. So you probably shouldn't use the system in city driving at all. It's probably best to use it only on the highway, where you don't really have that problem. You're just driving along fairly consistently, and keeping along with other traffic. So it's good in that respect. The other issue with the lane following is right now it will only follow fairly shallow curves. If you go into a tighter curve, the system will basically disengage. You'll see the auto steer icon on the instrument cluster turn from blue to gray, and it disengages, and it'll tell you it's disengaging the auto steer, so you have to start steering. So it can't go around tight curves. But again, if you're driving on the highway, it's generally not a problem.
So have you seen any issues with just these features going very slowly? I mean, I know from a personal level, I have a 2006 minivan, which has no features at all, and a 2012 Mini Cooper that has not a camera, but just a sensor, just a rear sensor, which I've gotten so used to that when I get in my minivan, like I'll just pull out of the driveway and, hit the soccer goal, which I did this morning, just because I get used to having those features. And then if I don't have it, like, have you noticed anything like with these small things that people get used to and then they're not in all vehicles or they work differently? Have you seen any issues with that?
Yeah, that's absolutely a problem. If you're going back and forth between multiple vehicles that have different feature sets, and if you predominantly drive one car and it has certain capabilities, and then you jump into something else, jump into your spouse's car that may not have that feature, you forget about it. Like for example, with me, I over the years have always tended to have cars with manual transmissions, and my wife prefers to drive cars with automatics. So when I get into her car to drive, the first thing I do when I start the car is reach for the clutch pedal before I start it. But of course there's no pedal there. So that's not a new problem, and it's not a problem that's going to go away anytime soon, as long as we have different feature sets in cars, and the humans actually have to do the controls.
So let's talk about a few other kind of stories that are in the news right now, particularly this one that broke last night. Apple made a $1 billion investment in Didi Chuxin, the top ride-hailing app in China, with more than 1 billion rides last year and 87% of China's ride-hailing market, so a pretty big deal. Sam, what is at stake that has Apple so interested in an investment like this, do you think?
Well, I think what it is, there's a couple of things at play here, I believe. One, most of the $200+ billion cash hoard that they have is overseas, and they can't really bring it back into the U.S. without having to pay a lot of taxes on it. So they want to use it overseas as much as they can, where they don't have to pay those taxes. Much like companies like Microsoft have done. When they bought Skype, that was a European acquisition, and they used their overseas cash to do that. Google and other companies have done similar things. So by buying a Chinese company, they were able to use up some of that cash in that way. The other thing is, China is a huge and growing market, and the company that they invested in has a dominant position for ride-hailing services in the country, much more so than Uber. Uber has about 10% or less of the market, and this other company has most of the market. So that fits in with what I think is probably Apple's long-term plan if they do, in fact, decide to get into the car business.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it's clear very much that they're doing development on cars, and I'm still not 100% convinced that they will, in fact, get into manufacturing cars. They've often done R&D on all kinds of different products that never make it to market, and that may still be the case with cars. But if they do, I wrote a blog post last fall after they announced the iPhone upgrade program, speculating that what they might do. One way that they might enter the car market is to not actually sell cars to consumers, but start a mobility on demand service where they would use autonomous vehicles and have a ride-hailing sort of infrastructure to summon the vehicles on demand. And Apple, being a company that sells premium products, they could position a service like that as a premium service compared to most car-sharing services that have maybe typically have about 150 to 200 members per vehicle. So like companies like Zipcar usually have about 150 to 200 members for each vehicle. Apple could do that, have just maybe 10 people per vehicle for their fleet, and charge a higher price point and charge maybe a flat fee of about $750. And if they had 10 users per vehicle, they could generate more than $90,000 a year in revenue per vehicle. So it could actually make business sense for them to do that.
Wow.
And getting into the Chinese market with a ride-hailing company like this gives them the infrastructure to summon autonomous vehicles if that's what they end up producing, and then they also don't have to deal with the problem of actually selling vehicles, and especially if they do it here in the U.S., where we've got all the problems with the franchise dealer system that Tesla's been trying to deal with. They could, if they do that, they're not actually selling cars to consumers, so they don't have to deal with the issue of dealers.
Yeah, it also kind of seems like good timing in the sense that Apple, has had some issues very recently with China after having kind of free reign in the country with its products. And so I wonder if kind of investing such a large sum into a Chinese company like this is also kind of a signal to China about their willingness and their intention to work with them and, kind of invest not just in themselves in the country, in China, but also in the country itself.
Right. And a company that, like a car, is not a newspaper or a movie or a book. It's a car. It's hardware.
Right. And the other thing is, China, in most of the big Chinese cities, they've got a huge problem with traffic congestion and pollution. And by shifting towards, this sort of mobility on demand service with autonomous electric vehicles, that could really help to alleviate a lot of those problems. So they could be positioning themselves to the Chinese government as doing something that is beneficial to Chinese society, while also investing in China and showing that they're committed to the Chinese market for the long term.
Exactly. Well, PC Magazine says Google is hiring people in Arizona, or if you're willing to move to Arizona, you can get paid $20 an hour to drive their self-driving cars. That means sit in them and type really fast. You have to type, I think, 40 words a minute to say what's happening in the car. Applicants need a clean driving record and a keen attention to predicting the social aspects of driving. What do you think about this, Sam?
Yeah, what they're trying to do here is, up until now, their fleet of prototypes, self-driving prototypes, have all been driven or have been operated by engineers, by Google engineers. And so what they're looking to do now is expand the scope to people who aren't engineers who have been developing these vehicles. They want to get some feedback on how people react to riding in these types of vehicles, and how they react to the kinds of conditions. When they see the vehicles doing certain things, responding in a certain way to traffic conditions, how will the humans react? So they're trying to gauge what the relationship between people in self-driving vehicles is going to be in the future.
Yeah, during the first rollout, wasn't one of the first problems that the people who were riding around, these Google engineers who were riding around, like they got super distracted, like they stopped paying attention. Once they had to stop driving, they would that's part of the problem. Like, you're not alert. If you're not driving, you're not alert.
Yeah, that's one of the problems with going with the idea of going incrementally from the manually driven vehicles that we have today to fully autonomous vehicles. So doing it in small steps over time. The more automation we put in there, the less people are going to be paying attention. They'll get complacent, and they won't be ready if and when the system needs to disengage for whatever reason. Whether there's a sensor failure or some situation it can't handle. They need to be able to be ready to take over, and they're increasingly finding in various studies that the time required for a human to take over from the autonomous system is way too long. And so engineers are starting to come to the realization that they're basically going to have to step directly from the type of what we call level 2 automation, which is similar to autopilot, directly to level 4 or 5, which is essentially fully autonomous systems. And what Google is trying to understand better, how that relationship is going to work between the human rider and the vehicle.
So they've started in Silicon Valley. They have cars in Austin. Do you know why Arizona is their next place?
It's just they're expanding the scope. They're also adding Portland in there as well. It's just getting more data with all their other machine learning projects like Google Photos. Anything that requires AI development takes a lot of data, and the more data you have, the more the system can learn. And so they're expanding to different types of environments, different driving environments, different weather conditions. So Portland will be the first place, where they're testing, where there's, likely to be more rain. Mm-hmm. And eventually, over time, they'll expand into other areas as well to deal with other kinds of road conditions and weather conditions and just different driving conditions. So it's just, I think, Arizona worked out well in terms of what they're able to do from a regulatory standpoint. It's just a good spot for them to test.
I think the one thing on this job application that was the most frightening to me, it says it requires constant focus for 6 to 8 hours a day. It's just, who has that? Oh, who does that? I mean, I guess if you are used to like working with machinery, I don't know. I mean, hopefully they'll get breaks.
Well, I would hope so.
I think they'll get regular breaks during the day. That is kind of an odd one. I think mainly what they're looking for there is they want to get as much feedback from the people riding in the cars as they can throughout the course of the day, each day that they're in the car. And I'm guessing that they will probably also have cameras and sensors in the vehicle that are monitoring those people to see how they're doing. So we're looking for feedback from both directions, both from the car looking at the people and from the people watching the car, watching what the car does.
So Tesla is sort of testing these features with cars on the road that are in beta, and Google is going at it a really different way. Like, which do you think? I mean, what do you think about these two different ways that the autonomous technology is being tested?
As somebody who's trained as an engineer, I much prefer the Google approach to this. Putting something experimental like this out on the road, out on the open road, and just letting customers go at it, to me, it doesn't strike me as the wisest thing to do. So far, nothing too serious has happened, but it does seem to me like at some point, it almost seems inevitable that something really bad is going to happen with one of these autopilot-equipped cars. Hopefully it doesn't, but it's not. If I was in charge, it wouldn't be the way I would do it.
Yeah, it does seem weird to me.
But then again, I'm not Elon Musk, so.
Yeah. It seems a little odd to me, and the response to it also seems a little odd. It's like that they're saying, well, you didn't follow the directions, and we told you that was going to happen if you did that. And we know that you did that because we have all the data. Like they know when they pressed the summon, they know when the guy opened the door, they know how long it was before and in both instances it sounded like there was like a little bit of fumbling where the guy in Utah was trying to show someone how it worked, and then it sounded like maybe he was distracted showing them, and then the other woman, it seemed like what she did using the autonomous feature was what you do when you use cruise control. Like you take your foot off the gas, and then that's not what you do with this autonomous feature. And so, yeah, it just seems like a little stumbling around, and yeah, hopefully nothing.
Yeah,
happens.
there's a couple of things going on here. First of all, Tesla is doing an immense amount of data logging on all these cars. So they're logging everything that happens in these cars, much more so than any other manufacturer's ever done that I'm aware of, with cars that are in customer hands. It's typical to do this for test vehicles, but once you sell the vehicle to the customer, you generally don't do that kind of data logging without their permission. The other thing that here is that, again, when I was working as an engineer, developing electronic stability control systems and traction control and anti-lock brakes, the assumption we made was that if there was something dumb that a driver could do behind the wheel, we had to design around that. We had to design the system to be resilient to whatever silly thing that a customer might do. And we had to get around a lot of pretty ridiculous criteria before we could release our systems to production. Tesla's not doing that. They're putting it out there. Somewhere in the fine print, it says, here are the limitations, but, I don't think most people are, that most people don't read the manual. They don't read the fine print. They just get in and use the product, assuming that everything's going to be okay. And in this case, the product is not as fully formed as many people think it is. I think, Tesla has been open about the fact that it's beta and that it's not completely, not everything is working, and it will get better. And I fully believe that it will get better over time. Everything they've done so far has, but I guess as I say, I wouldn't have done it the way they're doing it.
Well, Sam, thank you so much for joining us. Sam Abuelsamid is at Navigant Research. Tell everybody the best place they can find your work.
You can find me at navigantresearch.com, or you can just Google my name, and you'll find my blog. You'll find me on Forbes and all the other social media places where I hang out.
Thanks so much for coming on. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Thanks.
Pleasure to join you.
Let's take a minute to thank PillPack, the sponsor of this episode. PillPack's a full-service online pharmacy. And if you've ever, gone into the pharmacy, you know that there are plenty of ways that it can be improved upon. Well, PillPack is going to make you wonder why you ever settled for a traditional pharmacy. With PillPack, you'll never have to wait around for your prescriptions. You'll never have to sort your own pills or chase down your doctors for those refills again. Their pharmacists actually take care of everything for you. PillPack uses advanced technology to sort all of your medications and your vitamins by the date and time for each dose. They make it very easy for you to understand when you get the package exactly what you need to take and when. You can also order inhalers, creams, and diabetes supplies, which come refrigerated in easy-to-open packages. Shipping is always free, of course, and their pharmacists are available 24/7 so that you can speak with them from the privacy of your own home, in your pajamas if you like, or if you're on the go, preferably not in pajamas. PillPack has truly designed their pharmacy to make your life easier and have very quickly disrupted the pharmacy industry because it's quick, it's easy, it's convenient, all of those things versus the alternative. What's great is that PillPack is compatible with most major insurance plans, including most forms of Medicare Part D, and their service is free. That means you only pay the copays set by your insurance provider. So here's what you should do to check it out for yourself. Visit pillpack.com/twit. You can sign up right now. It only takes 5 minutes to get started. When you use our link and you transfer your prescriptions to PillPack, you're going to get a credit for $20 worth of vitamins and OTCs. That should get you started. That's pillpack.com/TWIT. And we thank PillPack for their support of Tech News Today.
TNT's fan of the day is Grant Johnson on Google+, who sent Jason an image of this crafty little contraption saying, for audio listeners and audio lovers like yourself, here is how I watch TNT.
I like it. It's a little, I don't know exactly, but it looks pretty cool. I don't know. It looks like maybe a handcrafted audio interface, I'm guessing. He's got the little, what is that, a SanDisk player down below. Maybe that's a headphone amp. It must be a headphone amp plugging in there. Alex, what do you think? There's a tube.
A tube.
Excellent. Does that say Bravo? I don't know if the brand on that. I don't recognize the device itself, but yeah, it looks like it might be like a tube headphone amp or something, which is actually kind of cool now the more I look at it. Very cool stuff. I'm pretty sure you are the only person to send in this particular type of how I watch, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, so far, you're the only person. You can show us how you watch or listen to TNT. Just record a video or take a picture of yourself or your setup, post it on Instagram, Google+, Twitter, Facebook, anywhere. Use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT, and we will find it.
It's a challenge now. People have to fashion their own high-end audio hardware and compete against each other with incredible tube amplifiers.
Obviously, you could probably just take a bunch of technology and put it in a pile.
Just dump it in a
I don't know
pile,
what it
put
is.
an LED light in the middle of it and be like, see? So I never really considered this before, but apparently a lot of batteries are ingested for a number of reasons. 3,500 watch batteries alone were swallowed in the U.S., I think it was last year, and reported as such, according to data from MIT. Sometimes when that happens, they will simply exit the human body naturally. You can fill in the blanks there. But other times, they just sit there, doing damage to the stomach and the esophagus tissue. So then, robots to the rescue. We talk about robots rescuing and saving the day all the time. The ingester swallows a pill that contains a tiny digestible robot encased in dried pig intestines. So basically, it's a tiny little robot sausage, essentially. Once inside, the robot pops out of the capsule, and it can be controlled externally. And there is video below. It can find its way to the battery that has been ingested. And as well, it can perform a number of other tasks that they've designed it for. But this is one very specific use for it. It grabs onto it due to an onboard magnet, and it can give it a lift to the digestive tract for removal.
For removal. It's a BaconBot for your belly.
BaconBot for the belly. I like it.
I love it. And it's funny that you never consider this because, I mean, my kids swallowed things all the time. It was like a constant fear. It's not just magnets, too. I mean, it's not just batteries, but that's the problem.
Magnets are bad.
Yeah, magnets. But, like, there is seriously, like, a proliferation of those tiny watch battery type things within, in all kinds of toys. It's super scary. So this is fantastic.
Yeah, it just kind of travels through. No big deal. Just, here I am.
So it's an
I'm a BaconBot.
It's an origami robot. So like we've seen these. I think we showed these earlier this year or last year. Like it's like folded up in a magnet.
So
and
cool.
The magnet leads it to where it needs to go.
The future is crazy.
The future
crazy. Keeps blowing my mind. Well, there we go. That's the future, and it's surrounded by bacon and sausage casing. TNT records live every. Sorry. TNT records live every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, 12 a.m. UTC, not surrounded by sausage casing at twit.tv/live. You can be a part of the show by emailing us at tnt@twit.tv. You can leave us a short voicemail at 260-TNT-SHOW, and you can find the show on Twitter. We are at Tech News Today TV.
You can subscribe to the show at twit.tv/TNT or wherever you get your fine podcasts. You can get our newsletter. It's twit.tv/newsletter. Sign up for that there. And if you want to find me on Twitter, I am at Megan Morrone.
And I'm at Jason Howell. Thanks to our technical director, Kara Cole, and Alex for running the prompter, and all the folks who help us produce the show every single day. And thanks to you for talking tech with us today. We'll see y'all on Monday. Bye. Have a great weekend.